going to be live on YouTube, and we're
welcome. Join us. We're speaking with Eva Laree tonight on a lesson on karmic debt, and we'll open the floor for questions and answers after her presentation. We thank you for joining us. Please click the follow button, and if you have something that you want to say, raise your hand. We'll bring you on stage at that time. Okay.
all right. Now tonight, Halo. I want to say Halo Venus and Princess Jamie. Tonight we're dealing with we're going to be dealing with the history, the true history of the Americas, and I really want to get in on this because we're going to shake some people tonight. We're going to shake some people with this topic. Okay, so we're going over. This is going to include universal laws. It's going to have some science in here, some metaphysics, some Moorish science. And it's going to deal with some information that you can go and look up for yourself. Now, one of the things that I always say when I'm giving this information is I say, do not believe anything I say. Don't believe me. You should not be believing anyone at this time. What you want to do is get the information and you want to go and research it for yourself. All right. So you want to get the information and you want to go and research this information for yourself. So tonight, we want to say thank you and welcome once again to everybody. We're going live here. We're live here on Clubhouse, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Halo, diva. Yeah. All right, let's do this thing. Now, when we're talking about history, I want to take this back to we want to take it back because everybody, we always talking about this character, Columbus. All right. He was a very pivotal in this whole game. We need to talk about him and who he was and how we can recognize, this character was and who the true people were that were coming into the land. Now, we have all been made to think with the telling of history is that these characters that were coming in here were light-skinned beings. This comes from the movies. This comes from, we've been made to think they're Albion. So now when y'all hear me use these terms, Albion, you'll hear me use the term melanated. I don't call melanated folks black because black means death. It means dead. And white has to do with rulership. Now, black and white originally had nothing to do with the term, with skin color, nothing. It had to do with your status. All right, it had to do with your status and whether you own something or who you were as a being or person in this country. All right, so black and white fictitious. All right, so we got to keep that in mind, y'all. But by the way, if y'all in these sessions, you better pick up a pen or some paper because I'm ready to drop some facts, and I want you to make sure you check them out. So what we're talking about here, I'm going back to 1490s. 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean, whatever, blue. Okay, fine. Now, what we've been made to think is that these were Albions. What you want to recognize is at this time, there in Spain, there was this whole up movement going on where the Moors had been in charge of Spain. They had conquered it, and they were being kicked out. They had been defeated by who we know as Queen Isabella. All right. So Queen Isabella, I'm sorry. All right. So Queen Isabella had conquered this whole, all the Moorish faction that had infiltrated into Spain. They had conquered. And so at this time, the Sultan of Morocco had seceded all of his territories. Now, you got this character named Columbus, who was that time in Spain. At that time, he was in Spain. This is 1492. Y'all take notes now. It's 1492. Columbus is in Spain. Now, we need to understand who this character is because we've been made to think that these people are Albions. What you got to understand, I just told you we're ruling it. Now, in understanding that, what we want to recognize is when we're talking about anytime we're talking about royalty, whether we're talking about Spanish royalty, French, Dutch, all of those, such as they were melanated, dark-skinned people. These are not light-skinned entities, because at this time, your Albions, they were slaves. And this is when you start understanding at this time, the land that we know as Europe or the European lands, those were Africa at the time. So y'all got to write this down because things have flipped. Right now, I'm just talking about the 1400s. I'm going to tell you when the flip was, and all of us are going to be able to see it. Now, at this time, the Albions were being kidnapped from certain places. Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma. These were all Moorish fractions that were going around kidnapping Albions. And you go and look up white slaves in America and just follow that. Look, what you're going to find is that they were under the thumb, these Albions. And when I say Albions, once again, I'm talking about your light-skinned people, which y'all know as white. They're not white. The original white people, I'm going to tell you who they were. We're going to get into who the original white people were, who the original people of the land was, who Columbus was, who the true slaves were, who the true Europeans were, the true Africans. We're going to get into that. All right, so now, when you have Columbus is in this land in Spain, according to history, Columbus was a convert from either Muslim or Islam or a Jew. He converted. Why did he convert? Because once again, I told you, Queen Isabella had fought with the Moorish Empire and she won, and the Moorish Sultan had seceded all of his territories to her. At this time, she was kicking everybody out of the land who was not claiming to be Christian. And Christopher Columbus converted to keep from being kicked out of Spain. Now, let's go into this. Why is this character so important? Because, again, I say to you, he wasn't the light-skinned individual that they portray him as in the movies. Why is this important? This is important so that you can see as we progress in history what really happened with melanated folks and who the Albions truly are and why it's important to recognize. Now, let me say this as I go on. I do not have any kind of disdain for anybody. I love my Albion friends. I love my melanated folks. Oh, yeah, I love them. But I'm going to tell the truth today. I'm going to spit the facts today. And then I want you to, once again, don't believe me, go look it up. So as I said, we had Columbus coming out of or being converting from Muslim, which these are carbonated. These are carbonated people. These are dark-skinned people, Muslims, and Islam, and Jews. The original Jews were dark-skinned people. They were melanated people. We need to get that. And even when you go back and you look in history and you start seeing the Jews that were coming into the Americas all the way up to the 1800s, they were dark-skinned people. I have images and pictures and all of this of dark-skinned Jews. All right. So now you've got this Columbus character. When he sails on this boat, what he had to do, he had to go to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. He had to go to them in order to get funding for this ship that he wanted to go to the Americas in. Now, what you've got to understand and recognize when we talk about the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages and all of that, this is a time when the Albion was gaining knowledge from the melanated people, the people who were the rulers. This is when he was gaining knowledge. The Albion was gaining all of their knowledge from the melanated folks who was training them. So why is that important? All right, that's important because, again, the history that we have been taught is flipped. And because we keep thinking we was the slaves in this land, we keep retelling the history. And when we retell this history, we enslave ourselves because of the story that we tell. All right. Now, we gotta rectify this, because once we do, we're going to also see some things that we did as a people to cause some energies to come upon us. This is why I go into universal laws. So now, Okay, so let me get through this, and then once I get up here, and we're going to take some questions. But once we go into this history where we've got Columbus is going to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to get this funds, which what I need y'all to recognize right here, right now, is that King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella were melanated royalty. So do you mean to tell me, first of all, at this time, this period of time, 1490s, we're talking about the Dark Ages, when Albion was just coming out of whatever they were coming out of and learning to speak. So you tell me this character, Christopher Columbus, is going to royalty and trying to ask them for funds now to sail to a place that nobody believed existed. So this is an Albion at this time who were mostly slaves is going to royalty. You got to understand, just like now, it was then. It's about status, your status, who you rubbing elbows with. So you mean to tell me someone who is in a status of a lowly slave is rubbing elbows with royalty? And not only that, you're telling me this Albion, who was in this lower state, knew how to sail the ocean. You know, astrology, you know, back then when they sailed with the stars. You got to know astrology. It's hard to know astrology today, much less back then. Where did he get the education? Again, if he was Albion. So what I'm saying to you is you got to recognize how things were flipped. And you got to recognize, go back and do your research. Just do your research. Don't believe me again. Go back and do your research. So get to this. Columbus convinces them after converting from being Islam or a Jew that he got this land in America. There's this land in America. He convinces them to fund his mission, and with him he took a whole bunch of Jews, dark-skinned folk, and a whole bunch of melanated folks who were Muslim or Islam into the Americas. He had translators. Why would he have translators? Because he knew there were people there, and he needed to be able to communicate with them to do business. So you got this Columbus character, 1492, going into the Americas. And there's all this talk about the people who he found there, copper-colored people. What y'all need to understand, I'm here to break this term down for you, and I want y'all to take some notes because, again, I want you to go look some things up so we can understand what these terms mean. American. Ameri is a term that is a Hebrew term rather, and it means copper color. Ameri means copper color. Ika, I-C-A or I-K-A means land of the indigenous people. America means land of the copper colored people. So when we're talking about every north of Canada to south of Argentina, we're talking about Americans in America for all copper colored people. And what we want to recognize is that when Columbus came in, there were copper colored people in the land. Now, in understanding that, shortly after he came over, so I just need y'all to understand who he was and the fact that his whole mission was funded by other melanated people. Because we keep getting into this thing about, oh, the Europeans came in and they did bad, evil things to the original people. I'm going to give y'all this clue, and I need y'all to recognize this. The original Europeans were melanated people. The original Europeans were melanated people. And so we're going to tell you about who they were. You're talking about the people from Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli. All right, Montezuma. Those were your original Europeans. Because what we know as Africa today used to be known as Europe. And what we know as Europe today used to be known as Africa. Now, why is that important? See, I'm going to give you all a clue about why you know who's who. Now, about Africa, you'll notice how when Africans come into the land, they don't want to call themselves Black. They don't want to call themselves African. They take on the name of the nation where they come from. They know those terms deal with a lesser status. That's why they don't take them on. They deal with a lesser status. Why is it that your people dealing with Moorish law, they won't take on the term African? Well, wait a minute. Morocco is right there in the northern part of Africa. Why would you not take on the term African if y'all in Africa? Well, because it had to do with a lower status. So they knew better than to claim themselves to be African. They knew better than to claim themselves to be Black. And so now what you have is, people, the terms have flipped. And so let's talk about what happened when they flipped and how this came about. Now, I want to get back to this. The original people of the land were a copper-colored people. And you had your melanated people. These were a darker people. So now, the reason why I'm bringing this up, because we have been made to think that it was the Albion that came in here and did all this mess and enslaved the original people of the land, when that is just not the case. Once again, your original Europeans were actually dark-skinned melanated people from Morocco, from Algiers, Tripoli. See, these were states that were known for kidnapping and seizing and piracy. Okay. And so what ends up happening is these dark-skinned Europeans, they come into the land and they enslave the original people of the land. Now, let me tell you how this happened. In 1400, after 1400, around 1492, Britain came in shortly thereafter and started establishing corporations. The first of which corporations they established in the Americas, we know today as the Virginia Company. Look it up. It is the very same state that is known as the state of Virginia. It is a corporation. The state of Virginia is a corporation. In the 1600s, that's when the Virginia Company came into play. Now, what was the Virginia Company was about? It came in, the British, and please note, the British were dark-skinned peoples. They were not Albions. They were dark-skinned European. They were known, also the British were known as Europeans. Where they coming from? That land that we know today as Europe, but that was Africa originally. All right. So you got the British that come in, and they set up this colony or this company known as the British Company. Now, what they do is they get the original people of the land to sign contracts or treaties. It's important to know this. They sign treaties. So when they were signing treaties, and they get the original people to sign treaties, what ends up happening is that by the way, the land is still in those treaties till this day. So the deal in these treaties were, okay, well, we'll sign over our land or our the ability to do business on the land, but the land stays in our name, and in return, we're going to pay taxes to your corporation. That's the same situation that's going on to this day. That we are paying taxes to a British corporation that y'all know as the United States Corporation. It's the United States Corporation. Y'all think it's the United States of America, but it's really a British colony, and it only has jurisdiction in what we know as Washington, D.C. All right. That is a British colony. All right. So now, in recognizing that and understanding where we are with respect to how what has gone on with Britain, they came in with this company called the Virginia Company. Okay, well, then another set of melanated folks came in from another land, and then they established what we know as the United States of America. Now, they established the United States of America before the United States Corporation was established in 1971. Now, y'all take notes, because listen, the United States of America came into play or was incorporated. The United States, there's a difference now. Don't pay attention to what I'm saying. There's the United States of America, which was incorporated in 1771 or 1777. And then there's the United States Corporation, which was incorporated in Washington, D.C. in 1871, and that is a British colony. But the United States of America is the true, what we know, republic. That is that place that protects all of your rights. It protects your rights under the republic. But right now, we're not under a republic. We're under a corporation that is British owned. All right. So what happens is after Britain has started, the Virginia or the these other melanated people came in, they were known as a group of elite Moors. They were known as a group of elite Moors. And they came in and they started establishing governments, what we know of today as counties. That comes from the Moors. Counties. What are counties for? They count things. They keep account of the land that people own or claim. They keep account of what properties you say you own. They keep account of contracts. All right. So those were the Moors that established those counties under the United States of America. Well, then there's this war that comes about because these Moors decided to come up with this Declaration of Independence. When they came in with the Declaration, because here's the reason why they came up with the Declaration of Independence. Britain, with their Virginia company, they had already started to establish all of these other territories, these 13 colonies, y'all know, all the way down to Georgia, which was the newest 13 colonies. So they're establishing all of these counties, or these colonies rather, and they're constantly getting the original people of the land, your copper colored Americans. They're getting them to come in and pay taxes to Britain inside of these corporations. Well, as they're doing that, they're being disrespectful to everybody. Britain, they were doing the same things that they do now, kidnapping people, basically, calling it arrest, brutalizing people. That's where you get the term British Moors, British or brutish Moors. It comes from that, their temperament, where they were just really brutal with people, and all of those things. And if you go and read the Declaration of Independence, read it. It's not that long. You're going to see that they're doing the same things today that they were doing back then. The same things that they're doing today, they were doing it back then. And so when the British decided, they said, listen, we're going to, so let me do this. I'm going to stop here because I want to get some questions in here. If anybody has questions, anybody wants to raise their hand. Y'all in Facebook, hello, Instagram, hello. If anybody has any questions, but I just wanted to put that down to see if anybody else wanted to add anything or ask any questions. But let me just finish here. If y'all have any questions, go ahead and ask. Raise your hands if you have any questions or anything you want to add. But let me get to this point. When we get down to it, about what happened, with respect to these, the United States of America versus the United States, there was just a war between, you've got the Moors in here who started the United States of America. You've got the British in here who's running these colonies. You've got the original people. Some of them are with the colonies. Some of them have chosen to be what we know as just state Indians. So the colonists are the original people. And then some of the original people say, I don't want to be a part of it. And so now you've got the Moors who had started the United States of America are kicking Britain out with the Declaration of Independence. And they took over. It's called a hostile takeover. So anyway, anybody have, a hostile takeover is what happened and why the Declaration of Independence came about. And so Britain is now angry. Britain is saying, nah, you know what? We're going to fight about this. You're going to take my company. Because the colonies were British companies. So that's what ended up happening. And so what we got to understand is what really happened in history. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I want to take some time to answer questions right now because we're 30 minutes in. Y'all make sure you can join us on Instagram. You can join us on Facebook. You can join us on Clubhouse. And what other platform? YouTube. So we're on all three of these on Hotsy Totsy. We're on all three of these on Tuesday mornings, 7 to 9 a.m. And then Thursday evenings, 7 to 9 p.m. All right. Does anybody have any questions before I get back into it? I just want to take some questions. Anybody? I'm gonna keep going if y'all want me to keep going. Princess is in the house. All right.
Yes, let's take a second to reset the room here in Clubhouse. This is a kind of behavior that they do in this group. Just do a reset. When you get the room kind of full, we'll stop for a second, acknowledge the guests, tell them what we're talking about, so they'll be aware of what they just dropped into, and then reset. That's how you reset the room. We thank you so much. It's so much information. It's like, ooh, Virginia coming in. Thank you, Diva.
All right, no problem. All right, so I'm trying to make sure my little speaker worked here. All right, so now, does anybody in any of did these elite Moors follow a faith or religion? Yes, they did. They are Islam. That's the faith or religion they follow, Islam. But one of the things when they came in, when those elite Moors came in, one of the things that they were very big about is they did not want, in the original 13th Amendment stated that there would be no royalty. So so that if you were a duchess, a king, a queen, or anything that comes from a quote unquote royal family, you couldn't be president. And they were very strict about that. And to this day, nobody realizes this, but ever since George Washington, Britain has been ruling the United States of America and the United States Corporation. They've been running it because everybody from George Washington, according to my research, all the way down to Barack Obama are related by blood. And that's one of the things they didn't want in this game, is any kind of royalty or blood in this game. And you see, since George Washington, it's been run by some kind of royalty or blood.